Let's work on division with decimals in the divisor. It's very different when decimals are in the divisor as opposed to when they're in the dividend. The divisor is that number you're dividing by. So right here you're dividing by 1 2/10. That is your divisor. If you can tell on this page, the divisor is in bold because I wanted to stress that. That is the number that cannot have a decimal in it. So you do whatever you have to do to get the decimal out. And the easiest way to do that is multiplying both numbers by multiples of 10. Either 10 or 100 or 1,000. So 1 2/10 divided by 7 2/10. There's a decimal in that, in the divisor. In order to get rid of that decimal, I need to move it one place to the right. And that gives me 12. But I can't just mess with one problem. That changes the whole thing if I change one number. So I need to also multiply that by 10. So that ends up moving that decimal place over 1. So then I'm left with 12 into 72. 72 divided by 12. Now I can divide. 12 goes into 7 0 times. 12 goes into 72. 6 times. 6 times 12 is 72. 0. I have no decimals, so my final answer is 6. Let's go down one. 20 4/10 divided by 6/10. This has one decimal place I need to move over, so then I will move it over one place here too, which gives me 6 and 204. Once again, I have no more decimals. So now I can divide it out. 6 goes into 2 0 times. 6 goes into 20 3 times. This is 18. 6 goes into 24 4 times. Times 6 is 24. So my answer is 34. No decimals. Doesn't always work out that way. Let's look at this one. 1 65/100 divided by 1 5/10. So to make this a whole number, I need to move the decimal place over one time. Now over here, that means I have to move it one time also. But this time, when I move it over one time, it still has a decimal in it. It's now 16 5/10. But that's okay because you've done lots of long division with decimals in the dividend. That doesn't matter. So I now have 15 into 16.5, 16 5/10. 5 goes into 16 one time. 15, it goes into that 0 times. 16 minus 15 is 1. Bring down the 5. 15 goes into 15 one time. 1 times 15. So before I write my answer, since I've got a decimal in the dividend, I've got to go straight up and put it up here. So my answer is 1 1/10. So 1 1/10. So remember, you don't have to have a whole number in the divisor. A lot of the times you will, but I see there are several other times when you're still going to have a decimal in the dividend. Now go on to the second page and let's look at that. Just to get you in the habit of moving those decimals correctly before you ever start the division, this page is nothing more than practicing moving those decimals. You've been doing long division for a long time. You have not been doing the decimals, moving the decimals long at all. So this is the part that I want to make sure we focus on, and of course you'll put it all together as well. So we're going to do this whole column together, and then you can do the rest on your own. This is the divisor. As you can tell, the divisor is always the number that comes after the decimal sign. After the division symbol, I mean. So, and they're all bold. I see that I need to move this over one decimal place, which means I need to move this one over one decimal place. So then I have 72 divided by 12. Now look at this one, 1 75 hundredths divided by 7 hundredths. I need to move this decimal 2 places. Then I can move this one 2 places. And that becomes 175 divided by 7. In both of those cases, I ended up with 2 whole numbers. In this one, we won't. 9/10. You move 1 decimal place. So that means we have to move this 1 decimal place, and only 1 decimal place, which puts the decimal here. So then we're left with 5 4/10 divided by 9, just like that. Now come down here. This decimal moves 1 place, so then this decimal can only move 1 place. So now we have 9 24 hundredths divided by 11. Here we go. This decimal moves 2 places, and this one moves 2 places. 2 whole numbers, 282 divided by 12. All right, so let's look at the divisor. The decimal place must move 1 to be a whole number. So this can only move 1. So we're still left with a decimal, 8 14 hundredths divided by 11. Last one, this one must move 2 places. This one has to move 2 places as well, but we only have 1 place. So that means 1, 2. We got a 0. So we have 720 divided by 6. There are about 6 more where you'll have to end up adding a 0 in order to have your numbers correct. Now go ahead and finish the first page where you've got to move the decimals and then divide, and come back and finish this page where you're just practicing moving those decimals correctly.